Tinsley sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Bar-Bissell FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your front gear. He's got it. He's got it. Get there, man. Canvas is going to win.
Montreal is a circuit that takes no prisoners. Walls line the circuit and punish anyone who oversteps the bounds. High speeds and heavy braking zones will mean precision will be key. Will it catch anyone out? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on FTF.gg. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Michael Johnson and Bill Soup Zahn. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson. Well, we arrive here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Michael, and it's going to be a doozy with multi-class racing, no doubt.
It's a pretty narrow track to have two classes on that are going to be this different. I've seen a little closer, but the speed differential we're looking at in the cars here, it's exciting. I think the narrowness of the track might convince some people they're going to be able to go a little quicker where they are going to possibly get in trouble. Let's hope everyone behaves themselves and has a really good race today. This track really will come back and bite you if you're overzealous, but if you just sit back, relax, and let those passes come to you, it creates some beautiful racing.
And we've had some beautiful racing all season long, and I believe, Soup, you've got the update on where the points are for that.
Yeah, we'll hustle through this as the drivers start to take the grid. Nathan Olson, let's go with the prototypes first. From Madridis Green, he has a pair of wins. Yet to miss the podium, Billy Smith and Carter Kundinger, 3 points apart. Coming off a win at Monza, Kundinger might have the higher ceiling, maybe the lower floor. And if things go south for Olsen, Paul Gibson has the speed to catch everybody. Other winners in this class, Jeffrey Ooms and Dion Fiallo. Let's look at the GT Pros now. Except for a 7th at Indy, it's been wins and runner-ups for the Porsche of Ross Booth. Nathan Jew has a win at Road America. It's been feast or famine for Johan Shirazi. When that second drop race gets deducted, that's going to help him in the points. And then the Comet Bradley Haley, he's been chasing his tail for the first half of the season. Finally down to the GT AMs and 6 races, 6 different winners. Nicholas Davis is one of them. He has not finished worse than 4th. And although in 2nd in the points, Luke Smith, and he's not here today, is one of the few drivers yet to win in this class. Joe?
Yep, it's been fascinating seeing how many different drivers they've been able to have in that AM class, no doubt. It looks like, as you said, they are indeed gritting up. So it's time to go through the starting order, starting with your class, of course, Bill, up in the prototypes.
All right, points leader Nathan also sitting in front. He's going to be inside of Paul Gibson. I talked about him being quick. Watch out for him. Mo Islam sits inside of Carter Kundinger in the 2nd row. How about this? Bob the Blade Tinsey. Haven't heard much from him. He's going to be starting in 5th inside of Peter Houston. Billy Smith's the 2nd, well far back in the grid. Leif Peterson is outside of him. Joshua Wolf is going to be starting in 9th. Dominic Dorenberg in 10th. 11th and 12th goes to Ned Gruselski and Chris Sherburne. Michael, who you got in the GT Pros?
Well, Bradley Haley is sitting there in the Audi up front in a nice pole position right alongside the Porsche of Johan Shirazi. Nathan Jew right behind them. Ryan Robertson in the Ferrari, first Ferrari in the field. Got our BMW being shown up here by Ryan Waschelski. And look at this. We've got an AM right up here in the front. Robert Rattray, the leader of the AM class, the pole sitter of the AM class, is sitting 6th overall for our GT class with Ross Booth, name we know and love. It'll be nice to see him work his way through the field here alongside David Shutt.
Then you go back to Young Park starting 21st overall. Jimbo Pfeiffer starting 10th there amongst the GT cars. Then it's back to those AMs, second and third in that class. Rosenbaum and Eisenring on the same row with Franco Margarelli, the next one up. Then another pro with Eric Thomas starting 14th out of all the GT cars. Shane Hunter once again for the AMs with Trent Brown on his outside. After that, Tommy Ryan, another pro starting on row 15, and Scott Angelo will be beside him. Michael?
Yeah, looking at Luke Schmidt right there on the next row, right alongside Corey Ensing. Another pro, Tom Hammond, having a little trouble in qualifying in the Audi back there, alongside Dale Green, Mark Kudrowski, Jason Iverson, Patrick McDaniel, Chad Dick, Lionel Duprat, and Nick Olis round out row number 20.
From there, Sean Reese, Nick Davis, and Andrew Lunsford are the last drivers, with Davis and Lunsford not setting a time, and they're already heading out towards the start-finish line here. It's just past noon currently in the sim. And the skies have cleared up dramatically from what we saw earlier in the morning. Right now, 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. Also, it might seem like a slightly smaller field than what we've seen. Well, we have the Daytona 24 on iRacing this weekend, so you could see some quite tired drivers out there today from that. Olsen waits for the pace car to duck in. He's got control of the field. Let's see where he decides to go, as he could leave many of them stuck behind, and he is on it. And yes, a few of them did have to try and weave their way out of the chicane before they got going, as they fly down into that first center chicane. It looks like Olsen's going to be able to remain ahead of Paul Gibson. I'm not seeing any incidents amongst the LMP2s. Michael, how about those GTs?
Well, Bradley Haley has just taken a beautiful jump on the start, opening up a nice little gap, about 3 car lengths, doing what he can, but gets closed up there by Shirazi. Shirazi's able to close it up going into Senna as they work their way down into the really tricky part of this track.
Glad to see that everybody was really taking their time. This place notorious, Bill, for first corner accidents, with everybody trying to navigate a chicane right away. Up at the front, though, Bradley Haley seems to have decent control, but has not been able to distance himself from Shirazi yet.
Looks like Haley is trying to open that up as best he can, but Shirazi is having nothing of it. Looks like, I would say probably braking is where Haley is really making up the timing here. Where Shirazi is really making up the timing, but getting that jump and coming off the corners, watch every time. It seems like Haley is able to just open it up. However, we've got a nice little dart down to the inside. Can Shirazi hold on to it? Getting around the hairpin, putting the power down to head down this long straightaway. Looks like Shirazi gets back out front. And Haley hopefully going to tuck under there. No, not going to try to tuck in until just after that little wall break. And then, trying to put that nose out. We've got a big defensive position coming in from Shirazi as they go into the final corner.
Johans had a single win so far this season, but he seems very eager today to try and make that a second one. He did break a pattern that he was having. You heard Bill mention it was feast or famine. He basically was on the podium or outside of the top 10 back and forth each of the first races until last race, where he finally broke the curse. And it looks like that has invigorated him, as we got a spin at the back for the number 17.
Yeah, trying to take a look there. Little interesting spin, but not too bad. Probably be able to rejoin the pack here, I would think, because we are still fairly well packed up. There's a lot of early braking going on as people get into these corners because the field is so backed up. But taking a look back here up front towards these LMP2 cars, this is looking exciting. Bill, what are you seeing?
You know, everybody's pretty much racing in the same order that they started. I think Peter Houston, who started in sixth position, might have got a slowdown penalty on the first lap, and he's fallen well to the back. Nothing worse than getting one of those, Michaels, early on before iRacing figures out how to really penalize you.
Yeah, it gets frustrating. I know there's some tracks where it feels like you can go wide on a corner just because you outbraked yourself. And to add insult to that injury, they give you a slowdown penalty. But, hey, that's how they try to balance things out. That's what their method is. You just have to know what the rules are so you can play by them.
Looks like Houston actually may have left the server already, so he must have had something happen to him, but I'm not entirely sure what. I haven't seen any sort of disconnect from him yet, so interesting stuff there as we continue to watch Olsen lead the way with Gibson, Islam, and Kundinger still holding on, and then you finally have a breakdown to Robert Tinsey, who actually, I think Tinsey's giving up a spot right now. Yeah, there in the background. That was Billy Smith, his teammate, who just went on by.
Yeah, it was nice to see Tinsey actually qualify in front of Smith. Didn't take long for Smith to get there. You talk about Mo Islam currently in third. He races up front a lot, but he seems to always have something happen to him where he can't really get the finishes that he deserves.
For some reason, Kudrowski and McDaniel are both in pit lane. I didn't see what happened, but it seems to be something that caused damage because they've got black and orange flags for both cars. We've got a replay here. This will hopefully solve the mystery. Let's figure out what caused them to have to take an unscheduled visit. Oh, and that was involved in the number 17, it looks like.
Ooh, ow, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of damage. One, just going across that giant curbing, but getting hit twice after that, or getting hit or hitting. It's hard to say what happens in some of those cases. But yeah, that's not going to be something that makes you want to continue for the day for sure.
Amazingly, that number 17 car that just got pounded in multiple places was the one that carried on. That's Nick Davis. He didn't visit pit lane yet. I'll be amazed if he's able to keep going for much longer. A car can't be all that quick as you see him even struggle a little under braking here down into Lapingle.
Yeah, he's trying to get on the power there. Let's see how he's able to close up on these back markers, though. He had qualified fairly well, but trying to catch back up and get back into the pit, that's going to make it difficult. But once he's able to get close enough to get a little bit of that draft, these straightaways are very, very long here, and the draft is powerful. So once he can get back into that draft range, I think it's going to help him to catch up quite a bit.
Ooh, did Leif Peterson have an issue? Because he's suddenly dropping multiple positions. It looks a little wide there coming out of Lapingle. Dornenberg and Josh Wolf now ahead of him, with Gruchelski following very closely behind.
Yeah, it's getting to be. I'm sorry. I'm trying to watch about three things at once here. We had a really good pass from Ju before. Ju has moved up into second position in the GT class. He's trying to hold on to Johan Shirazi. I was about to call him Nathan Shirazi. They're both so good, they kind of blend, I guess. But yeah, he's trying to hold on to Shirazi. Shirazi's got about a 1.5 second gap on him, but he got around Bradley Haley pretty nicely, but now he's opening up a gap. It's about a 0.5 second back to Bradley at this point.
Michael, we talked about pit stops. We're having an hour race, so there's going to be one stop for everybody. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, or maybe it's just me because I'm an idiot. But isn't this the pit entrance here has got to be one of the most exciting on iRacing? It always catches my breath away when guys are side by side each other. And actually, the braking zone for pit lane is actually a little farther than it is for the corner.
Oh, quite a bit farther than it is for the corner, and it's always fun. I've done this from both sides, and even a nose to tail situation where I'm going in the pits, but the guy behind me isn't. So I miss my braking zone for the champion's corner or the champion's wall, and I just keep going, and he's not able to do it. But I would like to take a quick look at this pass by Ju. It was a really nicely developed pass. Let's go back here and watch. He is right on the tail, just holding up. Look at this. He is just pushing and pushing, gets the nose inside, holds up to that corner. And I have to give major props here to both sides of that pass. It could have been a huge mess, but both of these drivers, excellent drivers, knew exactly what their role was in that case and executed their half of it beautifully.
Ooh, things are getting complicated up at the front. The leaders in the LMP2s have caught the back of the GT field. That almost gave an opportunity to Islam to overtake Gibson, but was not able to finish the job, as it looks like they have finally cleared Nick Davis. And then the next one coming up going to be Nick Olas, probably about the time they get to the Casino Straight here. Whoa, big slide there from Gibson.
Yeah, Gibson has speed. He would really, if he can hang in here, he can actually give Olsen a run for the money when they get into traffic like they are right now. Top 4 drivers all racing in the same order they gridded at. Billy Smith, the big mover, up 2 and 5th.
So coming along that Casino Straight right now, Olsen, this is a perfect place for him to catch these guys, but those behind him, not sure if they're going to be able to get by before they start to get into the twisty bits. Oh, it does actually hold up Olsen, and that forces Oles off of the track completely, so he gets a slowdown penalty from that, and now he's into the thick of things, having to weave his way back and forth through the GT Pros.
Yeah, and if we look a little bit farther back in the GT field, there is some interesting stuff going on here. Here's Wyszynski. He has lost 2 positions from the start, but he is fighting back, closing down onto David Schutt. He has gotten within about a 10.5 in the lap or so. I think he's just kind of setting back, trying to get his tires in the right place to where he can go make this pass. Oh, and we have a spinner. We've got one of these BMWs has gone around.
And it's a very narrow track. Oh, he has to even take a tow. That's Corey Ensing. And that's along the backstretch. Now, how did he manage that? Did he spin it just coming out of turn 7? Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, a little bit too much grass. And oh, yeah. So that explains why. Because the first thing that came to mind was, oh, on the backstretch, just drive it straight to go into the into the pits like we were talking about. But if you've gone off and hit the wall that hard and you're crabbing like that, yeah, it's not going to work out so well for you.
So we come back to live with the battle here. I believe between, this is looking at Wasilewski's, Wasilewski chasing Schutt. This is for 6th position in the pros, and not too far ahead of the battle for the lead in the AMs that we were watching a little bit earlier. Rattray trying to keep Eisenring behind him. That's separated between those two now at this stage. Good news for Robert Rattray, but we're still waiting on the first repeat winner in that AM category. We'll see if Rattray can finally do that.
Yeah, hopefully he can. He's got the talent. We've watched him, and right now he's got Jimbo Pfeiffer in there between him and Ed Eisenring. But I think Ed is kind of hungry for something to happen here. I think Ed wants to take this win. I think he has the ability to do it, and looking at his lap times and his pace, he looks really consistent, really good. It's a long race. Let's watch what happens after we go through the pit cycle rotation and see what happens there.
Down into the braking for Lepingle. Pfeiffer still hot on the heels of Rattray, and Young Park just ahead of them. But it looks like it's a great exit for the Porsche. He's unfortunately too far away for Robert Rattray to try anything, at least this time.
Yeah, the GT field, it's hot and cold at this track. I found when I'm driving here that I'll get 2, 3, 4 laps. It would be just blazing, and I'm catching up, and then I just kind of fall off. And it's not the track, it's not the car, it's something this track does to you as a driver. But meanwhile, we're taking a look. I'm wondering if these guys are teammates. I think they are, but one of the cars is pushing from the rear with the rear motor, and the other one is spitting fire out the rear, just like Bill likes.
I love that McLaren. Only one out there, baby.
Yep, not many that are still running that. They're going to get caught by some of our leaders in the LMP2s here momentarily, which has really stretched some of them out for a brief while. Kundinger and Mo Islam were nose to tail, but suddenly they've spread completely apart here now. There you can see, and Billy Smith is trying to catch up to them in there. Oh, this is getting complicated for these drivers at this stage, and this is pretty early in the race, which means they're going to have to lap this GT field many times over the course of the race.
Yeah, and it's a pretty tight track, like I was talking about in the opening, with the way this track kind of goes back and forth, all these really tight chicanes, like we're watching right here as they go through the hairpin. You get the little bump coming out there, so it's not super wide open. You just have to follow a fairly narrow track that's lined with walls, so you don't have a lot of opportunity.
Had a problem with Wasilewski. Seems that he may have lost connection or something here. Yeah, looks like he is disconnected.
Yeah.
So he is a DNF now and is out of it. Going by just a few more of the GTs. Can he catch up to his rival? No, it looks like Billy Smith not going to be close enough. While he's trying to sort that out, just want to let you guys know that there's only 19 days left before the Bar Visuals FDF 500. Registration is now open. For more information, visit our Discord server or go to ftf.gg. This has got to be scary from on board these prototypes. Split-second decision-making here, Michael, for them. And often the wrong decision can mean walls all of a sudden into the side of the car.
Well, like we were talking about with that pass earlier from the GT field, on the GT field, it really depends on both sides doing what they're supposed to do. I often say, don't help, just stay online. If you try to help, now you've become less than predictable. If you remain predictable in your class, and I'm trying to pass you and I'm in a faster class, that helps. That is what actually helps. But when you try to move and be out of my way or whatever it is, it just doesn't work. So that was a beautiful example we just saw of not helping, but helping by doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Be online, just drive your line, because I'm coming so much faster in one of these LMP2s than you can almost think of doing in a GT3 car.
Another big wiggle from Mo Islam. He was so tight to the back of Gibson down into Lepingle and just couldn't get the power down soon enough. Now he's got David Schutt just in front of him, and this backs him up into his teammate Kundinger as well. So the battle keeps ebbing and flowing constantly. It seems like patience has got to be the name of the game today, and Kundinger nearly runs out of it there.
These cars are sliding a lot, and there's a little anger from that's not a hey, good pass flash over the lights. That's a you almost took us both out flash of the lights. I think that there was a lot of slide there. There was so much just slipping across the racetrack and not having grip.
Getting word that Nick Olas had something happen down on the number 37, but we didn't quite catch it. We'll see if we can track that down a little bit later on, as they now go past Ross Booth and Ryan Robertson. Booth, for all the impressive runs that he's made, is only sitting in 5th right now, but sometimes, Bill, it's not about always being at the front in these races. It's just winding up there by the end.
He is hard to figure out because I talked about it in the points where he has wins and seconds, but then he had that horrible race at Indianapolis, and it doesn't look like he likes Canada much either, but he's getting there.
Yep, he's still within the top 5, and it's early on. He's apparently thinking a bit about the fuel as we rode on board. We could hear him just get onto the clutch a little bit there to save fuel, I think, potentially. Although I thought that iRacing had changed that in the GT3 cars, that the clutching doesn't save fuel as well anymore.
Well, habits are hard to break once you get used to doing it. I mean, I have found myself trying to do a little bit of clutching in time to time. And I know people who will actually kill the ignition on their car and then just let it roll in. It doesn't affect you in iRacing like it would in real life. In real life, the whole car shuts down, and trying to get it going again doesn't work so well. But in iRacing, you can totally get away with that and save a lot of fuel.
I don't think he's going to those extremes, but he's still sitting right behind Ryan Robertson. He's within range. I mean, he's got to be pulling some slipstream, so I wouldn't doubt that he is trying to save a bit of fuel for until we get to the pit stops. Probably going to be most likely at least another 15 minutes before you could expect to see this car down pit lane, maybe even more than that, frankly, because the GT3s tend to go a little bit longer, looking for the run off the hairpin, and does a pretty decent job with it, but I'm not expecting a pass here.
Yeah, and taking a look back at our AM leader. We were just watching him a little bit ago with his, I'm guessing, teammate. He's opening up quite a bit of a gap there. Rattray has been able to open up about a second and a half, a little more than on Jimbo Pfeiffer, which puts Franco Margarella even farther back, another 3 seconds off of Pfeiffer. So right now, it's looking pretty solid for Rattray if he can hold on to this and run it even through the pit stops and get this to the end. This is going to be a nice, relaxed finish, except for all these LMP2 cars that come zipping in and out.
Well, let's not forget that we thought it would kind of be the same way with Monza, and then lo and behold, things went all kinds of crazy over there. So I'm not counting anything out. Yes, Rattray looks comfortable, but I don't think this is guaranteed at this stage as we continue to watch him in that Porsche just ahead of the LMP2 of Leif Peterson. Peterson only in 10th currently and not really lighting the world on fire. In fact, he's waiting incredibly patiently behind this AM leader.
I was about to say, this guy's got the patience of a saint, but Leaf actually does have really good patience. He knows it's a fairly long race. We've got a little over 40 minutes left in this race, 40 minutes, 53 seconds, plus a lap or so. So he knows he has some time, but he's pretty far back there. I think he needs to start getting on the stick because he's in 10th out of 11. That puts him, what is it? Quite a bit, about 35 seconds, 33 seconds off the leader.
By the way, Bill, you know, you're making a deal about Ross Booth and him just kind of biding his time. Well, he's already passed Robertson, found the right time, and moved himself up into 4th.
Starting to feel it.
He's,
hey, I want to take you to the LMP2s real quick. There's not a lot going on here, but there is a story I want to talk about. It's a driver just off the tower racing in 7th, Dominic Dornberg. He's the teammate of Mo Islam and Carter Kundinger. He's closing in on Robert Tinsley. He's already up 3 spots, and he's on the move. Bob the Blade, not so sharp today.
About 1.7 seconds between the pair of them right now. Yeah, there's a shot with both of them on screen down along the back stretch towards turn 8, braking under the bridge. A little bit of a tricky one, if you ask me, with a little bit of a curve in there. And once again, I'm seeing a lot of cars slide today. There is just so much yaw in these things.
Man, that's a great camera shot there as they come out there. You don't see these cars get that loose that often. At least I'm not used to seeing it.
Neither am I. It's kind of impressive that they're willing to get them loose at a track like this. And so far, it's serving Tinsley well. He's gained about 0.3 on Dornenberg and put himself just that little bit farther away in this half a lap. So it looks like he's got it under control. We might want to go to second here because Mo Islam has caught up to Paul Gibson, who's having to go at an awkward line through the center chicane, and that's going to block up Islam behind that GT car, and what he did have dissipates very quickly.
Yeah, good move there, good positioning of the car, good use of traffic. So it's one of those things in multi-class racing is how do you use the traffic, slower or faster? So if you're in the position of having faster cars come through, you can kind of dictate that you're going to be in between 2 of them. Or if you're the lead faster class car, you can use that to help you put a really big gap between you and the person who's sitting on your tail.
Well, there we see, I believe, our GT leader there briefly that we were looking at. And now we are back to Gibson and Islam at it once again, getting very close to the wall. Gibson leaving no inch at the edge of the track unused, and that gets him about half a second away from Islam. That was shut actually earlier that we saw on screen in the BMW, actually that red BMW we were watching under braking, while Islam does gain a little bit of time. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it at this point. Also, I want to point out, for a track that is known for having harsh attrition, we've only lost Nick Davis, Wasilewski, Ensing, Houston, and McDaniel out of our 41 starters, which is frankly pretty good.
Yeah, and 16 laps in here for this track, that is excellent. You end up getting these odd, especially with the amount of slip we're seeing out of these cars. You get these unfortunate points of contact with the wall that just absolutely destroy the car. Now, the LMP2s are just tanks. They are. You can bang off another car, you can punch up against, not nose into a wall, but go side on into a wall and just drive like nothing happened. The GT cars are more of a roll of the dice. You're kind of looking at a 50-50 chance of whether it ends your race or not. And with these LMP2 cars getting as close as they are, trying to roll around as we work our way through hairpin here with our LMP leaders, it gets pretty crazy.
You know, Joe, I've been watching this battle for a second. We're watching it right now. It's been yo-yoing. It's been like a rubber band, stretching, getting bigger, but it's smaller based on the traffic. But for maybe 2 laps now, Islam's been able to follow Gibson without traffic. And based on what I'm seeing, I think the car's faster. This may come down to maybe an undercut or one driver maybe staying out there longer. I think Gibson, he does not want to pit on the same lap, or Islam doesn't want to pit on the same lap that Gibson does.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Just do the opposite he does and try and hold out on that. Let's see as they approach that halfway mark, since they have a little bit less wiggle room on the fuel compared to the GT cars, where these LMP2 drivers decide to pit in. Islam and Gibson have pulled away from Kundinger by about 3 seconds as well, so there's not really much of a threat from behind at this stage. There is Kundinger on your screen as he went by Pratt, and Billy Smith going to follow him through.
An example of different strokes for different folks. I mean, Kundinger was unstoppable last round. He just added his own way, and here he is, racing quietly in fourth.
Yeah, about 11 seconds off the overall leader of Nathan Olson. And we're just about, as I just mentioned, to the halfway point. So that's kind of significant right there. I don't think that's just him kind of waiting and biding his time. If he's lost that much and we're this far in, that means that this is his genuine pace, essentially, I would say. But still waiting for more drivers to pit in. I think Chad Dick had an official stop, had an actual fuel stop, and is back out. But I think he's the only one that has chosen to do so by now, as we continue to follow the likes of Carter Kundinger out of the final chicane, the Wall of Champions, with Billy Smith looming ever larger in his mirrors. And now we once again look back to Paul Gibson with Mo Islam, making sure that he can't relax.
Yeah, he's trying to get tied up in here and hold on. I think this is a play for saving some fuel, not so that he necessarily pits on a different lap or gets more laps out of it, but that he puts less fuel in and is able to make a pass in the pits. I want to see if I get this one right, because sometimes it happens, but I don't know. It could happen here. That's probably what I think is going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can't take that out of the equation here, especially at a track that has so many long straights into heavy braking zones. Just trying to save whatever you can to get that edge could help you in the long run. And in close battles like this, you're going to need everything you can get to try and pull that gap. Here's the other thing. They're coming up to fights for position, 3-car fight, actually. Yeah, just in front of him. That was Olsen that just went by. That's Tommy Ryan, Jason Iverson, and Tom Hammond. So expect this to be a bit of a tangle for those two fighting for second place.
Yeah, and going back up to the front of the GT3 field here, looks like we've got... I think Nathan Jew is making a play for first. He has closed up about 3 to 4 tenths on just this lap. I don't know if Shirazi is having trouble or starting to save some fuel or what, but Nathan Jew is definitely closing this down.
Jew took another win this season at Road America. Not exactly a similar track, but I feel like you could make the comparison of long, fast straights into heavy braking zones. Maybe that is just a point and squirt style of circuit that really suits him, because right now he's really hassling that number 66 for the top spot, and we're watching him just pull up behind the car that I mentioned pitted not too long ago, Chad Dick.
Yeah, out of curiosity, with that similar paint style, I'm guessing they are teammates. Is that accurate?
Let me double check here.
I think that their cars have a remarkably similar paint style, so they may be trying to work together a little bit.
Same team with sister teams, essentially. So
got it.
they're not scoring points together, but there's probably some shared information.
Yeah, they're probably. I know when I work in these kind of situations that the blue team and the green team and the red team will all share some information. Maybe not all of it, but yeah, because they're still competing. But I think we have kind of that frenemy situation going on here.
Exactly. Well, on the back stretch, Nathan Ju just kind of hovering around, waiting to see what unfolds. I see Eric Thomas into the pits. Not sure if he had issues, but this could also be a scheduled stop. And so far, to me it looks like he actually intended to come in. Didn't have any damage to take care of, just getting his fuel and tires, and will be back out there. So that's P1 and P2 and the GT Pros on the screen now. Ross Booth, it's Bradley Haley behind him, actually. Haley's behind by 2.1 seconds here. That's him in the 428 Audi.
Yeah, Nathan was actually closing this up a little bit ago. I'm wondering if he is doing some testing. So he started on pole. We know he's got a good pace around this track, but then he kind of lost it about 3 laps in and then went back another position. I think it could be along the lines of just sort of sit and wait and then really start racing after we go through the pit stops. He's not letting them get too far ahead. He is only about, we'll call it 2.8 seconds off the leader. That's not that far when you've got 30 minutes to make that time up.
Okay, Islam is going to do the undercut. He got separated a bit because of traffic. Really, actually lost a ton of time in traffic, but he's coming in early.
Good catch, Bill. The 860 is indeed trundling towards his pit stall, and looks like a Ferrari is also going to come in for service in the background. So he should have one pretty far up the order, considering he qualified third. Yeah, there he found his spot, as there goes Olsen, not pitting in yet. Josh Wolf, the next of our prototypes to pit in. So it looks like it's all kicking off now, just past that 30-minute marker. Olsen hasn't really been under much threat. Gibson now a full 7 seconds off that lead.
Michael, can you be this much of a chess player to actually figure out what kind of traffic you're going to be in coming out of pit lane? Are you able to do those calculations, or is that just roll the dice and see what happens?
Well, yeah, sometimes. It helps to have somebody doing the numbers for you, but you can kind of get a sense if you are in the faster class that, okay, what did I just pass? How long ago did I pass them? How hard were they fighting? But just like in chess, you've got to think so many moves ahead, and you can't really think about all the possibilities. Somebody spun, somebody had a wiggle, somebody made a pass, another class came through and slowed everyone down. So you really have to kind of make your best guess. So I guess it's bridging the gap between roll the dice and playing chess.
Well, be luck or strategy. I think it worked out okay for Islam. I think he came out with pretty much clear track in front of him.
He did indeed, Bill. I went to look at the track map. There's nobody in front of him for a long time. But Carter Kundinger has pitted in, so maybe he let Carter know that that's the case, and that by the time Carter's out, he'll also be in mostly clear air. But Gibson has not pitted in this time, so he hasn't responded. He's going to try and run it dry as he goes past Robert Rattray, our leader of the AMs still. And that could be a strategical error from that number 31 car.
Well, I guess in theory, the car's lighter. Gibson's driving a lighter car. It has less fuel. The other guy has a full tank. But I don't know, man. Islam seems so much faster.
Ooh, Kundinger is out right behind Islam. So, yeah. Carter is also now out into clear air. Interesting stuff from our some of our top 5 runners here in the prototype category. They could steal quite a move over Paul Gibson, who is still weaving in and out of GT traffic. So is Nathan Olsen, but Olsen isn't pitting in this time either. He's sitting comfortably enough. He's going to take what is the traditional strategy here.
Yeah, Nathan Olsen sitting out front with Paul Gibson a good 8 seconds behind him.
There he is, right there. So Either this is as far as he can go on fuel, or he did sit up and take notice what was going on with his rivals.
Or he's watching the broadcast.
Honestly, I feel like he could have his like a crew chief or someone that has the broadcast on for him and making him aware of the situation. But he hits his stall nicely. Bob the Blade is also in. But what about Islam and Kundinger? Where are they going to wind up in relation to the 31 car?
If you do have a live strategist and you're not using a computer to do it for you, like a computer game or computer program to do it, that absolutely happens. I know I have been at Daytona spotting for a different class, a different race, and being sat up on top and listening to the guys on the radio to figure out what was going on. So I could use that to know where to look to watch for incidents and things.
Guys, Gibson has a black flag. Sorry to interrupt there, Michael, but he sped into pit lane. He's having to serve it right now. This is catastrophic.
Oh, that's going to be tough. Oh, and a slide right there. Wow,
that was Tenzi.
Did you see that slide? That was Tenzi. Yeah, that's these cars were sliding around a lot earlier, but not quite that much.
Well, tires have probably cooled off that, or he put new ones on there and did not like it as he exited pit lane off the racing line. There's a lot of marbles out there, remember? So that could have played an effect. And there is Gibson. He is back out dead last of those driving, but we're waiting for other cars to pit in from that LMP2 class. So he should inherit a few. My goodness, I was close to the tire barrier there as we were watching. Was that Dornenberg? Yeah, that was Dornenberg that we saw there on screen in the 913, who is still yet to come in. We need him, Billy Smith, Nathan Olson, Leif Peterson, and Chris Sherburne to execute their strategies.
Yeah, and taking a look on screen right now, that is going to be our GT leader pairing again. But take a look at who's right up in there. That's Bradley Haley. He has closed up quite a bit. He, like I was saying, he was a good 2.5, 3 seconds off. Now he is under a second off the tail of Nathan June.
This has been a phenomenal run from Haley and Booth. They've really done a fantastic job to bring this race back to them. Just goes to show that you cannot write these guys off with the number of podiums and wins that they have managed so far in this season. But it is one thing to catch them. It's another to pass, especially at a track like this, Michael.
Oh, and that looks like a dive into the pits for Bradley Haley. Bradley Haley is going into the pits. He's ready to make the switch happen and play the game. See if he can fall into some good traffic positioning.
Billy Smith follows him in behind. I got to assume that Gibson will wind up behind Smith since he is behind Tinsley is Gibson right now. Finds his stall nice and cleanly. And Islam and Kundinger going to be overtaking that 901 shortly.
It's going to be new tires for Haley as well. I just saw him come down off the jacks. So he's taking tires. You don't necessarily have to take tires in this race, but I think it could help with the new tire model in iRacing. It has given a good bit more wear, but the tires do last a good bit longer.
Peterson finishes up. And he's back, or Smith finishes up and he's back out. Peterson's also in pit lane. I got confused there for a moment as Billy Smith waits behind Shane Hunter. That's our 5th place driver in the AM category. Going to work his way around the outside of him through turn 5 and down to the braking of 6. We got another pitter. That would be our leader, Olson. Now comes in for fuel and possibly tires.
Man, he's fast and he good gas mileage.
And to clarify my tire comment a little bit.
Good, because I was confused. Go ahead.
They work deeper into the wear. Because it used to be you got to like 80, 75% wear, and the tires were just gone. But you could hold on to them for 2 full laps, or two full stints, and kind of deal with it. But now they'll hold on down to like 20%, 18% before they really start to get bad. And then you still have to change them anyway. So they don't last as long, but they last for longer.
Okay,
Does that make it sound right? Okay, that's what I meant.
Page 17 of the commentator's handbook says, don't embarrass your fellow commentator when he says something nonsensical. I was listening. It made no sense to me. Thanks, man.
Oh, change of position here. Mo is, or maybe not. Nope. I think Kundinger was challenging him, though. They were side by side down the casino straights, and it hasn't gone away quite yet. In fact, they re-inherit second place now that Gibson had his issues. And in fact, oh my goodness, is Gibson actually literally in last place now that everybody's taken their stops? I think we only need Sherburne to pit in now. I think Gibson went from the podium to dead last on the field. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a long lane time. A minute and a half in the lane, literally double what many others are doing at 45 seconds. So that was a pretty hefty penalty. In 45 seconds, you're not going to make that up. I don't care how fast you are. You're not going to make that up in 21 minutes.
Kundinger's really putting the screws to Mo Islam. So I guess, they've got Billy Smith about 1.7 seconds behind, so they don't want to screw around too much here. But it seems like any effective team orders have gone out the window now, and they've been back and forth.
Yeah, it's race time. Racing is on. Let's go for it, boys. Let's have some fun out here.
Oh, man, he's very fast in the slipstream. Oh, but Kundinger lifted this time. That was a big lift. He could have gone for it. Oh, but he gets unsighted, and he decides to just take the time penalty there, and will have to back off to give some of that time back. So there goes that battle for P2. In fact, there goes P3, because that was Billy Smith in the red, white, and blue that just snatched that away from him.
Yeah, that's one of those penalties that I wish they didn't give. You're already getting a pretty big penalty for having to cut through, and you have to go around that giant sausage curb. That's a penalty enough in itself, in my mind. But iRacing has deemed, no, we're going to go ahead and give a little more time to you there.
I just want to drill down a little bit. You don't have to go there. You can look on the tower. You can see car number 913. That's Dorenberg again. Remember, we talked about him in that battle with Robert Tinsey. Well, that's ended. Look where he is now. He's up into fifth spot.
Oh, Gibson gets a little bit of relief. Sherburne's pitted, and Gibson inherits 10th place. He's up one spot, but he's
that's gonna make it all better, Joe. That's the spot he needed.
He's got 9/10 up to Leif Peterson, so he is making inroads now. He's starting to make some overtakes there. Sherburne in the red and white, back onto the track in 11th. We take a look at our lead of the GT Pros, and Nathan Jew has now got Ross Booth behind him. When did Ross Booth wind up behind him?
I think I predicted something like this because he started, I want to say, in 5th. I think it was 5th where Ross Booth started, or 6th. He was kind of back in there. Yeah, and if I look here, it looks like Ross Booth made his pit about 39.6 cone to cone, and looks like about 41.6. So 2 seconds in the pit lane. Booth was able to make up, and that has put him into second position ahead of Johan Shirazi.
Wow. Well, the sort of teammates now suddenly have Ross Booth sandwiched between them. So it's kind of 2 against 1, depending on how closely they're working together. Also, don't need to go to it, but Gibson easily got by Peterson. That was into 9th down in the prototype class. But Ross Booth now sitting in a great spot. He's clearly threatening. I mean, look at how all over the rear bumper he is of Nathan Jew's 420 machine. If he just gets himself a good run or manages to wring a mistake out of the 420, he could easily be up in the lead.
And again, we've talked about this before. It's a pretty clear Porsche dominance. The Porsche has really shown up in iRacing and done wonderful work. Interesting to note that in real life racing, or meat space racing as we sometimes call it, the Porsche is kind of at the back with all these new cars and the new Evo that has come out, the new Evo spec that has come out. As we see, that's a little bit of sideways, getting on the power a little bit too quickly, and I think it could be a loss of position by the time they get down to the end of the straight. Teammate opening up that side, giving his team or pseudo teammate a little bit of a draft. Yep, going to happen. And we got an LMP car coming through to make it even tighter.
Dornenberg complicated things immensely, and maybe that's what caused Ross Booth to back out. Braked early, Shirazi back into P2. So the back and forth that you tend to see here at Autobahn rears its ugly head. It's not just being fast on the track. You need to be fast and brave in the traffic.
Yeah, we talked about it before. We've talked about it every single race. Traffic matters. Management of traffic absolutely matters, because you can win or lose a race based on what your attack through traffic or your positioning through traffic is. Traffic management is so important in these multi-class races.
Was going and looking at the stats where you're talking as we jump back to the battle between Wolf and Gruchelski here. This is for 6th position right now. And we could see something here to turn 8. Thought maybe Gruchelski was willing to send it, but not quite yet. He's really setting himself up and gets sideways coming off of turn 9 once again, and yet doesn't lose any time, weaving and dodging to try and find himself an opening. And so is Ross Booth, who just went by. Oh, that was a lapped car. That's Nick Olis. I thought that was Shirazi.
I did, caught me off guard too. But I'm thinking this prototype battle can really mess up these GT3s and get, guess who? Bradley Haley back into the mix. Yeah, he's down 3 positions from where he started, but this little mix right here, this is a good opportunity for him to get back into this top crowd and maybe get his way back onto the podium.
Wolf did a great job there, separating himself from Gruchelski. Just putting himself out of reach, unfortunately, with some of the traffic, and he's going to do it again right here. Watch how slow Nate has to take that first corner compared to his rival. So Nathan Jew holds him up unintentionally, but that's just the nature of the beast here. This has been interesting stuff here at the front, like you said, between those GT cars. I was going to say before this all started to explode in front of us that Olsen has had a podium every single race so far, and at this rate, he's looking pretty confidently on for another one today.
Yeah, those drop races are killing him because he has to drop like 3rd place finishes.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
the
feel
case.
so bad for him.
I mean, he's setting himself up for the end of the season. That's going to be extremely difficult to overcome, because even if he has a bad race, he'll get a 3rd place score that's plopped right into that open spot. Speaking of finding open spots, Billy Smith versus Mo Islam. There's a little bit of space left, and Billy Smith is going to try and walk through that gap, as Mo Islam cannot stop him from now, but he's going to continue to try and make him work for it as they go through 3 and 4 alternate lines between the pairs, as they also go by the lap car of Tom Hammonds around the outside of turn 5 and into the braking. That will deny Islam the chance to try and fight back, unfortunately.
Smith must have had a bad qualifying because he started well down the order. He is up 5 spots now to be in that runner-up position. Islam racing right where he started. That was some good racing. Billy Smith's coming too far to get to Olsen, though.
Yeah, his best lap.
Jew's gotten around, or he's getting around. Look at this. Nathan Jew making a nice push to get back into first. Johan Shirazi trying to battle back and forth with Ross Booth. This is getting pretty crazy up at the front of GT Pro.
Wow. Booth was trying so hard to take advantage of that, but Shirazi shut the door eventually, seeing exactly what he was doing. In fact, they just about banged doors with each other down through 3 and 4 rather, which is not something you see every day, frankly. Kundinger was trying to pass on Billy Smith. Or wait, Billy Smith was in second. What happened?
Oh, we're going to have to take a look at the replay here. Oh, now trying to get around some lap traffic, coming up into it, gets into the braking zone, a little bit off on his brake balance. Woo! That is lucky that nobody got caught up in that.
Poor Tommy Ryan sees 3 different prototypes slipping and sliding around him and is probably thanking his lucky stars that nobody hit him. But it did see a change of a number of positions in that sequence. And, but why is Haley now behind Robertson? He's also had a problem down into the hairpin And that was because of Shirazi and Zhu getting side by side in that same corner. Shirazi still ahead of Zhu, but they were going at each other's throats to decide the lead here at the same time that Ross Booth is still back there waiting for them to slip up enough he could take one of those or both positions.
Yeah, only about a dozen or so minutes left here in the race. Taking a look at this lead pack in GT, this is kind of, I think Ross Booth is getting tired of having these interestingly colored. I love their livery here, but he's got to be a little bit annoyed to be stuck behind them for now. But let's take a look at that replay of what happened to Haley as we go back here. And here we go. So coming into the replay, getting up into the brakes, goes a little bit sideways, trying to close in on that, gets around with a little bit too much curbing on the inside there.
And then watch, as soon as that happened, this is what kicked off what I was talking about. Wheel to wheel on their way down into the final chicane. And I'm amazed that Booth didn't leap on this to try and get by both of them. And eventually they're going to get back single file. But this is really heating up now. The tensions are just rising to a boiling point.
Yeah, and Gibson actually backed way out of that. He was coming up, sticking his nose in there, and then all of a sudden just heavy brakes to get out of it so he wasn't interfering with their race like that one right there, coming through, almost touching the champion's wall with a too-wide push into the wall.
Shirazi just about ran into Gibson, who slid, and Nathan Zhu actually gave a bump draft down the front stretch on Shirazi. Behind them, Booth almost getting the bump from Peterson down through the first chicane. Thankfully, that didn't come about either, but it is getting frantic. This is the typical stuff we're used to seeing with Autobahn at the end of a race.
Yeah, the GT class and the LMP class, the action back and forth here is just exciting. Oh, look at this as we go side by side. Oh, that's why they call it the Wall of Champions. How many millimeters can you get close to it? Wow.
Smith just sold in the middle of the track, and it seemed like Kundinger could not decide which way to go, chose too late, and had to get out of the throttle. That's about the only thing that saved Billy Smith in that situation. He and Mo Islam, just a ding-dong of a battle.
Yeah, and Ross Booth, I don't know if we can go there yet. There's so much stuff going on, but Ross Booth trying to go around the outside, doing a little Buffalo Gals. Nope, sticking right in, got under the wing of his rival here, Zhu, trying to hold on, pushing a little bit to the outside. Can he get around this car? By the time they get around, he's got a little bit of draft from that LMP2.
Oh, he's getting squeezed, though, and they're going to come together. The two of them make contact, and they have to take a little bit off course. Did they both get slowdown penalties? Zhu got away with it. Booth is going to have to serve it, and he does eventually. That's going to leave some very upset feelings after that one.
Yeah.
Mom, he started it.
I know what words I would be saying, and we can't broadcast any of them.
So can both of them catch back up in these last 9 minutes to bring the battle back to the leader of Johan Shirazi, or did that decide it between them? And what about Nathan Olson coming up behind them as well? Does he know he's going into a hornet's nest of very aggravated drivers leading this GTP Pro class?
Yeah, there's a lot of tension going on. I thought they were racing pretty well together, but as the timing tower turns to a single-digit number of minutes left, it gets a little bit agitated.
Just a little agitated. That's an understatement. Shirazi now giving chase on those ahead of him, trying to lap some of these GT cars and seeing if he could put them between himself and his rivals. But Zhu has been caught by Ross Booth.
I wonder if he's giving this up intentionally.
I don't know.
That is, the gap at the beginning of this lap was about 1.25 seconds, and now he's right back up on his tail. This might be Zhu feeling bad about what happened there and giving the opportunity back.
He defended there. He was going to the inside. I don't know if he feels bad. Maybe there's damage on the car.
That could be too. We could be looking at some damage on Zhu, because Zhu is now about 1.8 seconds off of Shirazi, and at the beginning of the lap, he was about 1.1, 1.2. So could be losing some time there too.
Oh my goodness, he's so close to him coming through that first set of corners, just about pushing him through. As we're going to ride on board now with Ross Booth, current championship leader and multi-time champion here in Autobahn. Once again, he's
Watch
right
for the pass
there.
here. Oh, good defense. Nice defensive position with a little bit of kinetic motivation going on there. Now they're going to be side by side as they head their way down towards the bridge. Oh, this is going to get a little bit crazy.
And he's past him. There we go, says Booth. We're even now, but he defends down into turn 8. He goes a little bit deep, and he goes off course, and Ju gets it right back.
I think that's going to give him another slowdown penalty, too, at that point. Yes, look, he's way off pace as he comes out there. Got an LMP car stuck behind him. Not sure why, but let's see if Booth can close this back up again. If he does close this up, I think you're right. I think it's going to be due to some damage on the car.
And Booth did get on the radio apologizing, so definitely not an intentional move. I'm sure it had Dale Earnhardt-esque vibes there, but I'm pretty sure, knowing Ross, that wasn't what he wanted to do in that situation, is make any sort of contact. But he's still within range. We've seen him catch up already, and honestly, even traffic could help him get back up to them. What this has done is Shirazi is 3.5 seconds up the road. Oh, and side by side with Islam and Smith once again, and a big slide off the corner. Mo has been slow on the straightaways many times. I've been watching here at the end of the race. This is going to hurt him, even though he's got the inside in the first apex. Round the outside. It'll give him the inside for the second one. Slots in front and they make contact. Billy Smith holds onto the car. He's going to keep second place, for at least for now.
Shame on Islam for getting into a great job by Islam for getting off of him.
Oh, so it's not just the battle for the podium spots in the GT Pros, it's the same spots up in the prototypes that is becoming absolutely frantic out here. We're down to 5 minutes left to go. Islam assuredly wants this one back.
Yeah, but if we go take a look back at the race we were just talking about, we almost can't because this is getting so close. But guess who is nose to tail yet again? Booth is right up on Ju, and that, just like we're watching here, it's a nose to tail race versus a nose to tail race. Both are just paper thin between them, or wafer thin, as some people like to say.
Big defense there from Nathan Ju down into the braking of Quebec and off the corner. Good exit there from the 420, not allowing Booth any sort of hope to try and make the move, at least at this corner. He's got just a few more laps. If he can continue to try and force him to a suboptimal line, maybe he can find something.
And that was a little bit better going through turn 1 there, getting up into Senna. I think Booth has maybe a little extra tire. I did notice, I think it was Booth, had changed tires during the pit stop. So it could be that he's just got a little bit better rubber underneath.
Oh, no!
To the wall.
Big hit. He keeps it going round the outside. Booth trying his best, and somehow, how does he still have that position? I can't believe he's still in front of him right now.
That is absolutely insane. That was a massive hit on the wall. That has got to have done something to that rear suspension on that car. But whatever it did, it is the right thing. He's able to stay out front.
That was unbelievable recovery there from Nathan Ju. He does not have a black and orange flag. He's able to stay out on the track here towards the end of the race, but is the car fast enough?
We're about to find out as they head down the straight, but oh my gosh, it looks like we've got to go take a look. Here we are, right here. Oh, as we got Booth sticking
that
his
straight line speed's hurting.
Yeah, he's definitely hurting on straight line speed. Looks like Booth's going to be able to get around, but it's still a tough position as they go into the braking zone, trying to get in there. They go too wide on the entry. Booth comes out ahead.
It doesn't get a great exit, but from what we just saw, I don't think Nathan Ju's car is 100% here. He's still going to stick his nose in, try his best as they've got the prototype in front of him. They just about make contact, and it looks like Booth has it this time.
Yeah, he was able to hold on to it that time, but that was an excellent move from Ju, trying to stick the nose down in there and hold onto that spot. You can pass there on the outside, but there's oh no.
Yeah, and this is affecting the battle for third now as Carter Kundinger eventually finds an opening and still gets a hip check from Mo Islam. Ju is fully separated from Ross Booth with that little bit of traffic.
Yeah, and now that traffic is going to come down to Ross Booth as they come up to the bridge, braking right there at the start of the bridge is a good point. They were able to get around him fairly cleanly. No issues there, although it looks like both of the LMPs were a little bit offline. Shouldn't have affected their lap times too much because they are still going at it hammer and tongs.
Oh, and he sends it a little deep in the corner with that GT car in front of him. Eventually finds his way around. By the way, we just got the 2 to go marker from Nathan Olson. He's got a massive 30-second gap. What do we have there? That's Bradley Haley.
And that's the same spot he had some issues before. Maybe he's holding on a little bit too tight to the curbing on the hairpin there.
Oh, but I see Robertson limping. I think this involves more than one car.
I think you're right. Let's take a look at the FTF.GG replay here. As we watch them, there is the Audi right there. He's got a good position coming around. Oh,
he's not limping. He's redressing the position. He bumped him.
That's got to be. Yeah, I think you're right. He bumped him. He did the right thing in giving that position back.
Well, that is great sportsmanship there from him. Robertson had to give up a lot of time there as Gruchowski's in pit lane, took a tow. He must have had some big damage this late in the race to do that. Looks like he made a little contact, I think, with, Robert Tinsey, actually. Interesting. All right, where is Olson? He's about to take the white flag, actually. There he is on screen right now. He's not out of the woods yet. You can see he's having to try and safely go by all the lap GT cars here at the end. He could still lose this race. And the 1 to go signal from Barney gives him at least a sense of light at the end of the tunnel, at least for now.
And looking back at the front of the GT field, things have opened up quite a bit there. We've got I was about to say Nathan Booth. I'm just mixing everyone's names up. Ross Booth has opened up on Nathan Ju by about 3.5 seconds. I think that damage is just a little bit too much to overcome, but Ju is still holding out over Schutt by a good 3.5 seconds. So it looks like with 1 lap to go, I think our podium is pretty well set in the GT Pro. GT and the Rattray still a good 12 seconds out in front of Margarella.
This is the battle.
Go. Margaretta and Rattray both have wins. Go ahead, Joe.
This is the battle for third in the prototypes. Kundinger and Islam. In fact, Islam made a little bit of contact with the wall of champions on the last exit there. So he's got to be careful that he doesn't damage the car with how hard he is pushing. They'll get at least a couple more opportunities to maybe try a pass. We'll stick with this as long as we can. I can tell you that Olsen still needs to get to that wall of champions. Whoa, and that throws it away completely. Did he actually catch it before the wall? I think he may have. We'll have to check it out later because here comes Nathan Olsen with a dominant victory here today, continuing his streak of podiums.
Wow, that's big. 26 seconds so far and counting. Looking like it might hit 27 even over Smith and Kundinger. Looking like he'll probably hold on to P3. But, hey, as this race is gone, anything can happen.
Absolutely. Looks like Billy Smith is this Josh Wolf here? And a little bit of a fight with Robert Tinsey. But Billy Smith takes second. Carter Kundinger is going to be able to claim third. But Shirazi, wow. He defended off all comers and is going to take a critical win here, his second of the season, as Johan Shirazi takes the number 66 to victory lane. Ross Booth eventually got that second place and beats out Nathan Zhu, but what a titanic battle it was as we watch this fight come down to the finish between Wolf and Tinsey, and the Wolf is going to wind up the winner.
And that red and white right there, that's going to be Rattray. Rattray is going to be our AM winner pretty solidly, too, with a 13.5-second lead over Margarella.
First two-time winner in that class. Finally happened, round 7.
That was rather uneventful compared to many of the others, but I'm sure he's happy about that. Who's that limping across the line?
Oh, that's quite a crab going there. That's going to be Gibson.
How did he do that? Oh, he
Maybe
hit the wall
celebratory
out of the final corner. He was having fun. I think he couldn't he was the last one on the lead lap. He just basically was goofing around there at the end. Thankfully, he didn't run into anybody. So here's Islam. Oh, it's the curb. He did give a big smack to the wall. He's lucky he could drive that thing to the finish.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, these things are tanks. You can slap a wall pretty hard in these LMP2 cars and still drive them. So lucky for him that it wasn't a little more rotation and just destroying the rear. But yeah, like I said, these cars are absolute tanks.
Well, that's it then. It's time for our results here for round 7 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. And Nathan Olson takes another win with Billy Smith going from 7th to 2nd. I think he deserves a pat on the back for that one. Carter Kundinger gets the last of the podium spots for the prototypes, with Mo Islam winding up in 4th. After that, it was Dominic Dornenberg in the 5th position, up from 10th. Another driver that I think deserves some credit. Josh Wolf was P6. Robert Tinsey 7th, not far behind him. Paul Gibson, as you saw, his race kind of summed up with that finish there. Just not much to write home about except to have a little fun in the process, winding up 8th after starting on the front row. Lap down to Leif Peterson in 9th, and Chris Sherburne was 10th. And Nate Kruchelski was the last of our prototypes to finish in 11th.
But that brings us up to the GT field and GT Pro. Johan Shirazi up 1 position on the day in his class to take the lead. Yet another Porsche. Ross Booth, wow, what a battle he was having, well, with everybody on the podium, I should say. Comes in 2nd in class. 3rd in class is going to be Nathan Zhu. David Schutt a little bit back from there. Bradley Haley having some trouble at the hairpin in that Audi. Started on the pole. Still respectable to finish where he did here in 5th. Looking at our first Ferrari there with Robertson, Young, Park right after that. And our winner in the GT AM class, Robert Rattray, and a good about 13 seconds back, but still on the podium in P2, Robert Margarella. Franco Margarella. I'm confusing names again. How am I doing that today?
It's just one of those days. Jimbo Pfeiffer was up next, with Eisenring being the last up on the podium for the AMs. It was Sheldon Rosenbaum who finished behind them with 4th in AMs. And it's Eric Thomas in the pros. Shane Hunter taking 5th in the AM category. 6th goes to Luke Schmidt, and 7th to Dale Green. Tommy Ryan 17th out of all the GT cars. Tom Hammond right behind him. And then it's Jason Iverson, the next one down, in 8th in the AM category. And from there on down, it's drivers that had a little difficulty today, including from Trent Brown on down. It was basically DNFs and drivers who had to come in for extra pit stops to repair damage. That does take us to our winner in the GT Pros. It's Johan Shirazi. And let's see how he felt about that fight here today, especially with Nathan Zhu for much of it on his sister team. Johan, incredible race out there. It seemed like there weren't many team orders between you and Nathan, and Ross Booth kept you both on your toes.
Yeah, definitely a fun one. I mean, we always come in with the strategy of we're just going to work together for the starts and certain parts of it, but once the pit cycles happen, it's kind of just free for all. Whoever best driver may win. Today, fortunately, it was me. He got a little unlucky with some damage, but I mean, he did a great job for me helping defend off Ross Booth there.
Well, and it's interesting how Ross Booth has tied into your season because he's been relatively dominant until Indianapolis. And Indianapolis was when you finally got that first win of the season. And since then, you seem to have kind of broken your trend of checkers or wreckers. What changed there at Indy that you've been so consistent with a first, a second, and a first?
Well, Sebring honestly was just an all-time low for me after leading, I think, almost every lap. Just an unfortunate circumstance what happened there, and that just fueled a fire in me. I just wanted to win every single one because I knew at that point we could have either been leading the championship, but now I've done it to myself, so I just want to win. Uh, and if it takes every race to win, that's what I'm going to try to do here. And yeah, that's what's been motivating me recently.
Well, Watkins Glen is up next, and that one can often be a bit of a crapshoot because of the slipstream battles that tend to form. How confident do you feel that you can keep this up heading over there?
I'm feeling pretty good. Especially with Nathan. Again, absolute great teammate. We've been working really well throughout the season, whether it be in qualifying or into races, as you can tell. I'm pretty sure we're going to come up with our own strategy, work together, and hopefully one of us finishes on the top step for Watkins.
Well, again, it's been a massively impressive improvement in these last couple races. Congratulations on the victory, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in 2 weeks in New York.
Yes, sir. I'll see you all there.
And big congrats there to Johan Shirazi, your winner in the GT Pros. Looks like everybody else is just too beat from the weekend of racing at Daytona and now an extra bit of racing here in Montreal because we don't have any more interviews. But we do have a race coming up here on FTF.GG. That is the FTF 500. As I mentioned earlier, only 19 days until the Bar Visuals FTF 500. Make sure and tune in for that and join our Discord to keep tabs on that. Big thanks to Autobahn for bringing us on for the season of coverage here. And thanks to the team today, Joey, Soup, Michael, Soup, and Zach. Next race, as we mentioned, Watkins Glen, January 6th, will be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.